Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tímea and today we are not discussing a true crime case, but another Reddit no-sleep horror story that involves Hungary in one way or another. Now let's get started because this story is spooky as fuck. Let's see. It's titled My Real Horror Story. This happened to me long ago, but I can still recall the day as clear as day. Okay. It's a bit long, but I'll try to simplify as much as possible. When I was young, maybe 5 or 6 years of age, my family moved over to Hungary from the UK due to my father's job requirements. In the early 1990s, when the dissolution of the Soviet Union had turned the Socialist Republic to liberal democracy, allowing large corporations finally to enter the country and establish a foothold in the land of opportunities. My father was from one of those companies. We bought a large mansion-like house in Budapest. The house was large with 4 rooms and a large front and backyard. I was told the house was considerably cheap compared to its large size. Our parents thought it was because the country was under communist rule that everything was so cheap. A few months had gone by and me and my sisters were getting settled in nicely. It was great having a huge backyard and school was fun. We were sent to one of those newly established American international schools, the ones that have Christian backings. Anyway, I was not really into religion and found the teachings of the Bible boring at most. But at least the hamburgers and pizzas were cheap. More weeks went by and we were now completely at home in our new house. But then things got weird really fast. I shared my room upstairs with my sister and we would talk ourselves to sleep at night. But one night we were both really tired from some vigorous backyard playing. So we fell asleep almost instantly that night. I was woken in the middle of the night looking for a glass of water. As I awoke, I took a glimpse towards my sister's bed that was on the other side of the room. Then I saw it. In the dark room on her bed, my sister was sitting up. I couldn't see her properly, only her shadowy silhouette. Before I could say anything to her, she lay back down. But it wasn't a normal laying down. She just slammed into her bed like you would when you're frustrated. Odd, I thought, but didn't give much thought to it. My need for a glass of water was a higher priority. But just before I got up from my bed, I saw her sit up again. She just sprung up. It was too weird and I froze. Then she slammed herself back down into the bed and sprung up, and again slammed down into her bed, again and again. The bed shook, making squeaky noises every time she slammed into her bed. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I just lay still in my bed looking at my sister's shadow, just sit up and lay down again. I don't know how long it had been, seemed like hours, but she stopped. She sat there, very still. Her dark silhouette now seemed even darker and black. Then she slowly turned her head towards my bed. So I shut my eyes as hard as I could, hoping that this was all a bad dream. Moments passed and I mustered the strength to open my eyes. I looked towards my sister's bed and was met with a dark, blacked-out face, fully turned towards me. Panic started to set in and my heart pounding mad, and I wanted to scream, but my mouth was frozen shut by fear. Cold sweat built up and silence filled the room. Fear was overwhelming and I couldn't stand it. I had to do something because I thought I would suffocate at this rate. I don't know where I got the strength to do so, but I rushed out of my bed and ran towards her. I came up to my sister so fast, But the next minute I saw my sister laying down in her bed, fast asleep. The dark shadow gone like mist. I frantically shook her awake. My sister woke up to my cries and shaking, confused and still half asleep. I told her what I saw and that we should probably make our ways to our parents' room. But my sister laughed it off, saying it's not funny and she doesn't believe in supernatural stories. I had no choice but to go back to bed, as I wasn't about to let anything happen to my little sister. That night I couldn't sleep and watched my sister all through the night. Thankfully, nothing happened through the rest of that night, but I couldn't shake off that eerie feeling that something was amiss. After that night, everything seemed out of place. The house that we were comfortable to run around in didn't look the same. There was something about it that gave me the creeps, and soon I was nagging my parents to move out. Of course, they just shrugged it off and said I watched too much sci-fi and horror movies, and they were getting to my head. Days passed and I was losing sight about that eerie feeling of the house. Life seemed to fall back into place and I almost forgot about that incident. But they were far from over. I woke up one morning from screams by my mother, who just came out of her room that morning. She was looking at me. I was hanging from the side of the second floor staircase upside down like a bat. As soon as I came to my senses, my legs gave away and I would have fallen head first if it wasn't for my father, who rushed out hearing my mother's screams. My father grabbed hold of my legs just as they were giving away. I was diagnosed with somnambulism or sleepwalking. The doctor said it was common in children and attributed them to sleeplessness and nightmares. My parents banned me from watching horror movies or any kind of content that may fuel my nightmares. But after that day, I kept on sleepwalking and every time would wake up hanging upside down from something. My parents were highly religious and became worried about it. Talk of exorcism and demonic possession were quickly brought up, and I remember a priest visited us not long after. The priest first visited our room. He was in there for a good hour or so and cautioned us not to enter until he deemed it safe. When he came out, there was an uneasy expression on his face. He started looking around and muttering something, maybe Latin, I wasn't sure. Then he eventually made his way downstairs again. Then he stopped and looked up. He was standing looking up at the ceiling with a face expression that chilled me. Something about his expression just said supernatural. The ceiling was located right beneath where our room was. He then motioned my parents over and spoke to them for some time. My parents' faces turned white, and we all moved out and rented a hotel room that day. The next day, my parents hired construction workers to tear down the ceiling located under our bedroom. They found a small trapdoor in the ceiling, and when they opened it, they found a small bag of bones from some small animal, maybe a chicken or something. But also inside the small compartment there was a small doll made of the same bones from the bag, hanging by a small thread upside down. Needless to say, my parents sold the house and we moved out immediately. We stayed in Hungary for another year and after that returned to the UK. My parents' religious belief and faith had tripled after that. As for me, I had strayed alien to Christianity. I'm not an atheist and I still believe in God and all, but churches make me uneasy for some reason. I stopped going when I entered college and I never been to one ever since. But that incident in Hungary had stopped me from not believing altogether. Something supernatural walks among us on this plane of existence. I am sure of that. My recent encounters have also led me to believe in the supernatural. But that is for another story. Ooh, okay, so what did you think about that? Do you think that this doll made of bones hanging upside down in a hidden compartment in the ceiling is a thing? Is it for real? Do you think it's a fictional story, or does it sound like it could have been real? It's said in the beginning of the story that he moved to Hungary in the early 1990s, when the Soviet Union's collapse allowed liberal democracy and large corporations to enter the country. Hungary was not part of the Soviet Union. The collapse of communism is what allowed large corporations to come in, but it's not synonymous with the Soviet Union. But besides, okay, I'm just being nitpicky. The other thing I want to point out is that this person says that they bought a mansion-like house in Budapest that was very cheap for its large size and had 4 rooms. Okay, so there are mansions in Budapest, but I find it hard to believe that they would be cheap even if they're haunted. Why would you buy a house, like an entire mansion, when you are only going to spend a couple of years in Hungary as you are being seconded from your UK job to Hungary? I think it would make more sense to buy an apartment or just rent an apartment or rent a house. But why would you buy a whole ass mansion in Budapest when you only have 2 kids? Now, also for me, 4 rooms doesn't sound like a mansion. That sounds like an average Hungarian house. Maybe I'm just like reading too much into it. Maybe I'm trying to debunk this story way too much, as if it could have been real. Anyway, I mean, it's a story from Reddit. It was most likely fake. But what do you think? Let us know down in the comment section. Today's Hungarian word is going to be for exorcism. It's ördögűzés. Ördögűzés. A lot of accents. Ördög means the devil, and űzés means like chase. Kind of like something like that. So ördögűzés technically means chasing out the devil of you. You are learning very interesting Hungarian words in my series. You're welcome. You would never come across these words, that's for sure. And today's engagement question is going to be, have you ever had some kind of supernatural experience? May it be positive or negative? Or if you haven't, would you like to have one, or are you afraid of it? Or maybe you don't believe in this at all. As for me, I have had a few. They were all very positive ones, but that is enough for me to say. What is it for you? Let us know down in the comment section as well your opinions on this story. Don't forget to like this video because it helps me out, and to subscribe because I have so many interesting things coming your way. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you next time. Bye!